What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful night tonight. Beautiful night. And Lipton tea. Just made it fresh. Filtered water. Boil it with fire. That's one of the ingredients. Fire. A teaspoon of sugar. And the tea itself. What I do is I put the bag in there. I let it sit for about 5 or 6 minutes. Stir it up. Mix all the ingredients together. And then sip it. Many times I have cold tea with no sugar, a lot of ice, and I enjoy that beverage. So, delicious. That is delicious. So, I'm a big fan of pumpkin seeds. I can sit there, with the shell, and I can finish a bag. I love the flavor. I don't know, it's the combination. It has to be with the actual shell. If you don't get the shell, it's a different experience. So I get the shell, I open it nice and easily with my front teeth like a rabbit, and then I remove the inside, and I don't know what, it's something about it. It's really good. So you would think that it's the inside, the seed itself, that gives you the pleasure of eating it, right? Not really, because I bought, you can see that. So these are pumpkin seeds, organic pumpkin seeds, sea salt, and it says just 2 ingredients. I guess it's the salt and the seeds themselves. Gives you the breakdown of the nutrition here. I think one of the magnesium is like a big deal here. 60% of your daily recommended daily allowance is in here. So 1.4 milligrams doesn't sound like much, but I guess it's enough. Then you have 35% of copper that you need per day. Zinc, 20%. And then you have, this is magnesium. I don't know what that is. Magnesium itself makes up 40% here of the daily RDA. That's like repetitive. That's like saying ATM machine. But magnesium is 160 milligrams. That sounds right. Phosphorus, 384. Potassium, 197 milligrams, and that's at 4%. You gotta eat a lot of these to get up to and a serving is a fourth of a cup. I can finish this bag in a night. I can finish it in a night. This has 21 servings. But, so each serving has 8 grams of protein. You could survive on this stuff for quite a while. But I'll tell you this, I don't enjoy them as much as I enjoy the seeds. Where you have to break them open. I don't know what it is. It's a slightly different flavor, but the other ones, it's the whole experience. I grab them with a fistful out of the bag, and I munch on them, and I can go through those. I have to restrain myself, because I can literally eat that whole bag, no problem. I'm a big pistachio guy. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. My friend, his mother, she knew I liked pistachios. One time I went shopping with her, grocery shopping. I didn't buy anything. I was walking around like a momo. And she bought a bunch of stuff. And then we get to her house, and I helped bring them up, to the kitchen. And she goes, oh, and I got a text here. Hold on. My bride. Oh, she goes, by the way, these are for you. And she pulls out a 5-pound bag of pistachios with the shell. And I said, oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And she gave it to me, and I went home after, and I had a primitive computer in those days. It had hard drive, no hard drive. It had floppy disks, and it had a software for writing. It was called 8-in-1. I used to use that a lot. So delicious. So anyway, I would sit at my desk typing away there, and I would eat the pistachios. And I actually went through the whole 5-pound bag of pistachios that night. It's the most I've ever eaten in one sitting, as they say. 5 pounds of pistachios. I think from 7 to midnight I was there. It's like 5 hours. And I felt full. And then another time, this is many years ago, this is like 20 years ago, I ate a bag like that of pumpkin seeds. And that's 1 pound 6 ounces. And I'm eating and I'm eating and I'm eating, you know, and I'm not thinking much about dinner. But I knew dinner was coming up. And I was at my in-laws' house. So we get called down for dinner. And I just finished eating that 1.6 pounds of pumpkin seeds. And I sat down and I felt so full. I felt like I had a big spaghetti dinner or something. I couldn't fit anything in. So I was eating, but I was eating like almost being force-fed. That's what I felt like, because I had eaten that. And I thought that stuff was going to digest and all of that, but it didn't. So it was a big meal. But yeah, I like the... And I'll tell you this, the ones I eat, the ones with the shell that you have to use your teeth to break open, those come from Europe. Now I've gotten some here, and you pay $7 for a little bag, but they're not the same. It's a different roasting process. So I see a cat coming my way. Should be coming up this way. Got tap here. I don't want. So yeah, so they have a different way of roasting. It's a higher quality flavor, fresher. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. So tonight, this evening, I'm going to talk about 2 albums after I take a sip of Lipton tea. I always say that this reminds me of my high school teacher sophomore year. I had a history teacher, Vietnam veteran, nicest guy, nicest teacher I have ever met, ever had, LAPD. And I've told the story before. I'm going to say it again. He had a thermos, one of those Stanley thermoses, the olive colored ones, you know, metallic metal. And in the morning I was in the first row, second seat. Pretty sure second, might have been first seat. And he would open up that thermos and the steam would come up, and you know, and this was like, you know, early in the morning. Nobody wants to do anything, let alone learn. And he would pour it, and he'd have that little cup in his hand, and he'd sip and teach. And he wore one of those Irish wool cardigans. And I always remember him. He was a really, really nice guy. He has since died. As they say, he's passed on. I don't know what that means, he's passed on, but yeah, he died a few years back. But I always use him as an example of a teacher that cared. He really, really cared, you know, about your well-being. He would always ask you, you know, take you aside, say, hey, everything all right? And, you know, very compassionate person. And I always wanted to tell him that back then, but I never did. It's one of those things I always wanted to say, you know, like at the end when you're graduating, you wanted to say, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? Say, I want to tell you something. And tell him how much I appreciated his empathy throughout the years, and just the fact that he was a warm, kind-hearted person. You know, very, very few teachers are like that. So, yeah, very nice guy. He was also the head football coach for varsity at my high school. So, delicious tea. So anyway, I want to talk about, so I'm a big fan of U2, the band, and the plane, but the band is what we're talking about here. Of course, I like the album Joshua Tree. A lot of good songs on that. I like all their stuff. But the album that really opened my eyes to them was Octoon Baby. So Josh Woodfree was out for a while. I had listened to it over and over and over, and then I went to the store because I had seen on TV they had released a video. What was it? The Fly, and what was it? It might have been even, I forget what the first single was. Mysterious Ways, maybe. Anyway, I liked it, and I go, I'm gonna go buy that. So I went and I bought it, and I couldn't stop listening to that album. I couldn't stop. Every single song, for me, every single song was a gem. Everyone. Love Is Blindness, Acrobat, One. Just so many good tunes. Mysterious Ways, The Fly, The End of the World. Just awesome album. They hit a home run with that. I actually saw them live for that album. And out of all the albums for U2, that's the one that I have listened to the most. But even after that, the only one I didn't get too warm towards was that Pop. No, I don't even think I ever listened to that thing all the way through. But maybe I will one day. It's probably not that bad. So Octoon Baby now in this story is out for a while. All the songs have been released that were going to be released. I went to see them live. All that stuff has happened, and now it's a quiet period. Nothing new, and I know that it's going to be years before something new comes out because they're still on the road. They're touring. So I go and at the time I'm down living in Long Beach by Belmont Shores, and I go down there. There's a mall. I went into the music store there, and I see an album by U2. It says brand new album. I go, when did they make this thing? I never heard of it. We didn't have the internet back in those days, so things would sneak up on you. And I went and I bought it, and I love this album. I mean, it was it was kind of like what they call an alternative sound. And I listened to it, and I had these Walkmen in those days, so it was a cassette, not an album. I had these Walkmen, and I would walk up and down Belmont Shores. I think it's an S at the end. That's where the Queen Mary is. And I would go from one side to the other, back and forth, while I was listening to this album. So when I hear this album, it brings me back to that time when I was doing my little walk down at Long Beach. And this is the album. You can see there's a lot of shininess to it because I still have the wrapper on it, but it's Zooropa. This is the 30th anniversary edition, and it is such a good album. I got into all these songs, and I was so happy that they went back to Ireland to record this in between. They had another leg of the tour, and they took a little break, and they went and recorded this. So Zooropa, Great Babyface, Numb, every song on here. Numb is the one where The Edge does a little bit of rapping there. Great tune. Lemon, love it. Stay, Far, So Close, another cool tune. Daddy's Gonna Pay for Your Crashed Car, another good tune. Some Days Are Better Than Others, awesome. So, and then at the very end you have a little gift. I'm a Johnny Cash fan, and so U2 is also a Johnny Cash fan, and they wrote The Wanderer, and he does lead vocals on it, Johnny Cash. Love that tune. Although they do a good job too. I heard it, their version of it, nice. And then here, I guess the 30th anniversary, they add a few things. So they have Lemon, the Perfecto mix, that's like a bonus, and then Numb, Gimme Some More Dignity mix. I haven't heard it yet, and this is made in Germany, so you can see back. It says made in Germany. So I bought this $60. $60. But I love it. I can't tell you. It's like I hear it and it brings me back to a time that was really fun. A little bit of a lonely time for me back then, but I can take loneliness. That's why I think if I went on the show alone, I could last a long time. I'm built for loneliness. Yeah, I could take it, you know. I mean, I prefer not to go through it, but if I had to go through it, I could take it. And then here we have another album. This is brand new by an artist that I really respect, respect. Remember that song, Luca? Susan Vega singing Luca back in the 80s. Well, this is her new album. So, this is copyright 2025, brand new. We had Luca on the back. I mean, Luca, Susan Vega. I'm a big fan of hers. So, this was $38.99. It's a single. It's not the other one's a double. Speaker's Corner, Flying with Angels, Witch, Chambermaid, Love Thief, Lucinda, I know Lucinda Williams, Last Train from Marupolo, Alley Rats, Galway. Produced and arranged by Jerry Leonard. Susan Vega, Flying with Angels. So I'm a huge fan of hers. I remember when that song came out, Luca playing it all the time. Had that message in it, you know. And then she released an album later on that I really enjoyed. That 98 point, I think it was 98.8 Fahrenheit. That album, Blood Makes Noise, If You Were in My Movie. All those songs were so cool. They had the beat to them, the nice drums, nice beat, and I you know, to this day, they were short songs, but they were good. They were good. If You Were in My Movie, I love that tune. And I thought, and still do, I thought Susan Vega, very attractive lady. You know, there's something about her. Her voice is like melted butter. You know, she's got that voice, melted butter sounding voice. But yeah, very attractive, you know. And she's still making music, which I appreciate. And she was good friends with Leonard Cohen, which I'm a huge fan of Leonard Cohen's. Huge fan. I can't tell you, like, I'm at the top of the 1%. Of 1% of all the fans. That's me, Leonard Cohen. I admire him. I love his music, love the lyrics. There was a time I was living in a very lonely environment, and the only friend in those days that I had was the music of Leonard Cohen. And late at night I would listen to Leonard Cohen, and just when I hear him now, I listen to him all the time even now, but when I hear him, it brings me back to that time, especially a specific album that I would play a lot back then. So, and I saw him live. He has since passed, as they say, 2016. When I got that news, I was at ArcLight movie theater. I was having dinner, and my sister texted me, and she said, "Did you hear?" And I read it. I go, you know, but you know, I don't feel, you know, the sadness that, you know, you feel when a younger person goes. He was in his 80s, lived a full life, you know. So, you know, what are you gonna do? That's the way the system works. You get to a certain age, and you know, the gas runs out. But I enjoyed him while he was alive a lot. A lot of Leonard Cohen in my head. So I will listen to this. I haven't opened it yet. still sealed. And she still looks very good. Very good. I don't want to offend her or anything by saying that. Sometimes it's like, what's he saying? I'm not trying to be offensive. So anyway, yeah, today was, got a little exercise in today, a little hiking, went to the mountains out in Santa Monica Mountains. I don't know if technically those are in Santa Monica. They look like they're more in Malibu. And then after that I went down to the beach. When my daughter Isabella was born, when she was little, one of the places we would go often was down to Manhattan Beach and Redondo Beach. I'd say, Isabella, you want to go to the beach? Give me a nod, and we'd go down and spend the day down at the beach. And then we kind of switched it. We started going to Leo Carrillo more. Less traffic up that way, more, isolated. I've told this story before, but one time I was there with my daughters. They were little. This is years ago, maybe like 10 years back. And they were shooting a music video there, and we were sitting in the background watching. There's a bunch of people there sitting on the sand watching. And this old guy started talking to me. He was talking to Isabella, my daughter, first, and he's talking to me, and he's telling me a story. He goes, I was an English teacher, he says. And I said, and I guess in that area, up in Malibu. And he says, I had a very famous student in my class, and she would come down when school was over to talk to me. And I would always say to her, this is him talking now, I would always say to her, leave the classroom door open. And he says to me, you never know, you can get accused of something, want the door open. He would always tell, leave the door open. And he goes, we would talk about all kind of things. I'd give her advice. And then at the end of it, he tells me that this person that he's speaking of is, who? I know I said this story. Taylor Swift. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking in my head, I don't want to fact check him right on the spot, but I want to tell him I don't think Taylor Swift went to high school in California. I think she went to high school either in Pennsylvania or somewhere else, somewhere on the other side of the country. But he kept going on and on about how he had her as a student, and they had a close relationship. Like he would give her advice. And then his wife and her friend came over. His wife and her friend came over, and they were talking to him like there was something a little bit off with him. Okay, it's time, like almost like I was waiting to hear it's time for you to take your medicine. But yeah, he was a little bit off. And then I went home and I checked it, and no, she did not go to high school out here in Malibu. So I don't know what he was talking about, but yeah, and he seemed a little bit off after this. The more he spoke, the more I said, this guy, the elevator not going all the way to the top. But yeah, we used to go there a lot. One time they were shooting a movie there. We were in the background, and director came up to us and he said, hey, we're shooting a movie over there. He goes, you guys mind if you're in the background? I said, no, we don't mind at all. We prefer it. So he goes, all right, we're going to start shooting, he goes, and you guys just do what you're doing, walking around. So we did that. We walked around. They said, take one, take two. I think they did 5 takes. Now, there was a working title, and it was called Seashells. That's what he told us. Because I said to him, well, what movie is it? So I can find it in the future. And he said, it's called Seashells. But he goes, that may change. That's what we're using now. And I never found that movie because I think they changed the title. But yeah, in my area where I live, there's always movies being filmed. Always. You go by, you always see, it's Paramount Pictures, United Artists. There's always something going on. Not United, I've never seen United Artists, but I've seen Paramount. I've seen Universal. So the other time they filmed and they made the whole property with snow. So they were filming something where it was supposed to be cold out, And that snow lasted, even though it was warm that day. The whole day there was snow all over the street, on the lawn, everywhere. So I can't wait to hear this, because it's a mystery. I haven't heard not even one song. So today I was listening to Gene Simmons being interviewed, Professor of Rock. I love that channel. Love that channel. I love listening to those stories. And he was talking about the song Beth, which is my favorite Kiss song. When I was a kid, that song came out, and my cousin, she was a little bit old by 3 years, and she would always talk about that song. She's like, I love that song, I love that song. So I went down to the record store and I bought the 45. And then I went to their house because they lived in that area, and we put it on the pickup, as they called it back then, and we listened to that song like 30 times. Beth, such a good tune. And he was just giving the background, the real story behind that song and how it came to be. I remember when they were really hot, Kiss, especially when they were undercover with the makeup. Nobody knew what they looked like. And then once they took it off and you knew what they looked like, you're like, oh, okay. And they kind of went downhill after that, and then they put the makeup back on. The makeup goes on, and the popularity goes up again. So, yeah. Detroit, Rock City. What's that other song there? That party song. Yeah, I think it's Detroit, Rock City. But yeah, they were very popular. Kiss. It's amazing nobody came up with a name for a band, Kiss, before that. Radio stations use it a lot. Kiss 105, Kiss 107, Kiss 108, Kiss this, Kiss that. They say that poets invented that word so it would rhyme with bliss. I don't know if that's true. But today, beautiful weather. Felt like late spring. Nice. And I was up in the mountains looking for every time I go through like a bushy area, I think, what about if there's like a rattlesnake resting here? And then sees these feet going through and just, bites. So far that hasn't happened. And I always think, like, would I have the ability to, get to the car, or is it one of those situations where you have like a limited amount of time? I will call an ambulance. I'll be like, yeah, listen, a snake bit me, and I'm just gonna sit by a rock here, and you guys can pick me up, give me some antidote, bring it with you. I hope they carry it with them. What's the point? By the time you bring him to the hospital, his heart stops, and then we didn't have any with us. I remember years ago there was a guy who had been bitten by poisonous snakes dozens and dozens of times throughout his life, and he had developed immunity. And they would use his blood to save people that had gotten bitten by poisonous snakes. His blood had antibodies, rich antibodies for venom, and he wouldn't die. Snake would bite him. Matter of fact, he would allow a snake to bite him just to keep the antibodies high. I don't know whatever happened to him. Probably died of a lightning strike after. Something's gonna get you. Anyway, I may be back. You never know. If I have more things to say, I may be back. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.